St. Augustine commentary on the Gospel of John, chapter 11, verse 55 to 57, and chapter 12, Tractatus 50. Yesterday's lesson in the Holy Gospel, on which we spoke as the Lord enabled us, is followed by today's on which we purpose to speak in the same spirit of dependence. Some passages in the Scriptures are so clear as to require a hearer rather than an expounder. Of such we need not tarry, that we may have sufficient time for those which necessarily demand a fuller consideration. And the Jews' Passover was nigh at hand. The Jews wished to have that feast day crimsoned with the blood of the Lord. On it that Lamb was slain, who has consecrated it as a feast day for us by his own blood. There was a plot among the Jews about slaying Jesus, and he who had come from heaven to suffer wished to draw near to the place of his suffering, because the hour of his passion was at hand. Therefore many went out of the country up to Jerusalem before the Passover to sanctify themselves. The Jews did so in accordance with the command of the Lord, delivered by holy Moses in the law, that on the feast day of the Passover all should assemble from every part of the land and be sanctified in celebrating the services of the day. But that celebration was a shadow of the future. And why a shadow? It was the prophetic intimation of the Christ to come, a prophecy of him who on that day was to suffer for us, that so the shadow might vanish and the light come, that the sign might pass away and the truth be retained. The Jews therefore held the Passover in a shadowy form, but we in the light. For what need was there that the Lord should command them to slay a sheep on the very day of the feast, save only because of him it was prophesied, he is led as a sheep to the slaughter? Isaiah chapter 53 verse 7. The doorposts of the Jews were sealed with the blood of the slaughtered animal. With the blood of Christ are our foreheads sealed. And that sealing, for it had a real significance, was said to keep away the destroyer from the houses that were sealed. Exodus chapter 12, verse 22 to 23. Christ's seal drives away the destroyer from us if we receive the Savior into our hearts. But why have I said this? Because many have their doorposts sealed while there is no inmate abiding within. They find it easy to have Christ's seal in the forehead, and yet at heart refuse admission to his word. Therefore, brethren, I have said and I repeat it, Christ's seal drives from us the destroyer. If only we have Christ as an inmate of our hearts. I have stated these things lest anyone's thoughts should be turning on the meaning of these festivals of the Jews. The Lord therefore came, as it were, to the victim's place, that the true Passover might be ours when we celebrated his passion as the real offering of the Lamb. Then sought they for Jesus, but with evil intent. For happy are they who seek for Jesus in a way that is good. They sought for him with the intent that neither they nor we should have him more, but in departing from them, he has been received by us. Some who seek him are blamed, others who do so are commended. For it is the Spirit animating the seeker that finds either praise or condemnation. Thence you have it also into the Psalms, let them be confounded and put to shame that seek after my soul. Psalm 40, verse 14. Such are those who sought with evil purpose. But in another place he says, refuge has failed me, and there is no one that seeks after my soul. Psalm 142, verse 4. Those who sought and those who did not are blamed alike. Therefore, let us seek for Christ, that he may be ours, that we may keep him, and that we may slay him. For these men sought to get hold of him, but only for the purpose of speedily getting quit of him forever. Therefore they sought for him and spoke among themselves, what do you think, that he will not come to the feast? Now the chief priests and the Pharisees had given a commandment that, if any man knew where he were, he should show it, that they might take him. Let us for our part so show the Jews where Christ is. Would indeed that all the seed of those who had given commandment to have it shown them where Christ was, would but hear and apprehend. Let them come to the church and hear where Christ is and take him. They may hear it from us, they may hear it from the gospel. He was slain by their forefathers, he was buried, he rose again. He was recognized by the disciples, he ascended before their eye into heaven, and there sits at the right hand of the Father, and he who was judged is yet to come as judge of all. Let them hear and hold fast. Do they reply, how shall I take hold of the absent? How shall I stretch up my hand into heaven and take hold of one who is sitting there? Stretch up your faith, and you have got hold. Your forefathers, held by the flesh, hold you with the heart, for the absent Christ is also present. But for his presence we ourselves were unable to hold him. But since his word is true, lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the world. Matthew chapter 28, verse 20. He is away, and he is here. He has returned, and will not forsake us, and he has carried his body into heaven. But his majesty he has never withdrawn from the world. Then Jesus, 6 days before the Passover, came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, who had been dead, whom Jesus raised from the dead, and there they made him a supper, and Martha served. But Lazarus was one of them that reclined at the table, to prevent people thinking that the man had become a phantom, because he had risen from the dead. He was one of those who reclined at table. He was living, speaking, feasting. The truth was made manifest, and the unbelief of the Jews was confounded. The Lord therefore reclined at table with Lazarus and the others, and they were waited on by Martha, one of the sisters of Lazarus. But Mary, the other sister of Lazarus, took a pound of ointment of pure nard, very precious, and anointed the feet of Jesus, and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the odor of the ointment. Such was the incident. Let us look into the mystery it imported. Whatever soul of you wishes to be truly faithful, anoint, like Mary, the feet of the Lord with precious ointment. That ointment was righteousness, and therefore it was exactly a pound weight. But it was ointment of pure nard, very precious, from his calling it pistici. we ought to infer that there was some locality from which it derived its preciousness, but this does not exhaust its meaning, and it harmonizes well with the sacramental symbol. The root of the word pure in the Greek is by us called faith. You were seeking to work righteousness, the just shall live by faith. Romans chapter 1 verse 17. Anoint the feet of Jesus. Follow by a good life the Lord's footsteps. Wipe them with your hair. What you have of superfluity, give to the poor, and you have wiped the feet of the Lord, for the hair seems to be the superfluous part of the body. You have something to spare of your abundance. It is superfluous to you, but necessary for the feet of the Lord. Perhaps on this earth the Lord's feet are still in need. For of whom but of his members is he yet to say in the end, inasmuch as you did it to one of the least of mine, you did it unto me? Matthew chapter 25 verse 40. You spent what was superfluous for yourselves, but you have done what was grateful to my feet.